recording. So, I don't know, I gotta preface an intro, but whatever. Intro.
The main focus of my channel is gameplay. I do care about the other stuff, but you'll notice that a lot of my videos will only briefly touch on things like visuals, music, story, and all the stuff that isn't directly tied to how the game feels to play. That's why I generally don't call my videos reviews. I'm not here to examine every aspect of the game equally. I'm not going to play a game on multiple consoles to check the performance. I'm here to talk about what I care about, what's most important to me. And when I play a new game, I want it to show me what it's all about. Those first hours of playing are all about feeling out what my options are, how systems work, what the game's asking me to do, what's important and what's not. And maybe it turns out to be something I don't personally enjoy, but I can respect when a game is well made even if it's not for me. I like when a game asks me to learn how to play it, punishing me for ignoring its systems, rewarding me for playing well, and offering a deeper level of engagement.
Yeah, it's like a Metroidvania. It's a Ninja Gaiden Metroidvania.
Yotobi.
Once the learning
those Metroidvania games are a pain in the butt.
Actually, it's more Ninja Gaiden than Metroidvania.
Okay.
But yeah.
Period has passed. Well, and offering a deeper level of engagement once the learning period is passed. And those concepts of punishment and reward can be very different across different games, and balance varies greatly from game to game. Any game can be broken with enough knowledge and playtime. Some games are broken much sooner than others. But I think what's important is that the game at least make an effort to show you the benefits of engaging with its interesting systems, so that when you do get to the point where you're good enough to break the game, you love the systems so much that you choose not to ignore them in favor of playing in a dumb, broken way that exploits the game's faults. If a game has done its job, your first playthrough will make you want to play the game better, not worse. The most important playthrough is the first one. Most people only play a game one time anyway, and even then a lot of them don't finish the game. The first playthrough bears a lot of responsibility for impressing the player, because really, the experience of playing a game once and not really liking it, and then replaying it to eventually discover that you do like it, is not very common compared to all the people that simply won't give it a second chance. The stronger your first playthrough is, the more likely it is that the player will become a fan of your game.
Fucking point.
Yeah, it's a bit redundant.
I get it. The first playthrough is important. Get to the title of the video.
He's trying to emphasize his points. No need to worry. He's just building.
He's just saying that there are issues, but you know.
He said nothing of substance so far, aside from the first playthrough is important, which, yes, I agree with, but it took you 2.5 minutes to get here, so come on, hurry it up.
No worries.
You could say it's padding.
No worries, only a 30-minute video with a 3-minute exposition.
It could just be a summation of what is yet to come. Who knows?
Game, recommend it to others, replay it, and possibly even learn to master it. So what does this have to do with style meters? Well, of all the ways to encourage players to experiment with your mechanics and play in a fun, interesting way, I think a style meter is by far the worst. I'm not against style meters and rankings and scoring systems, but they should not be a straight-up substitute for good gameplay. Now, good gameplay is hard to define, especially when so many different types of games exist, and people like different things. But generally, engaging in a game's systems should be important for continuing forward in the game. Many things like level design, enemy intelligence, coordination, resource management, strategy planning, experimentation, accuracy, quick reactions, multitasking, communication, and all kinds of decision-making contribute to the gameplay experience of many of the best games in all genres. In the worst case of style meter implementation, you would have a game where absolutely nothing matters except for the style meter. You'd have a game where you could
Okay, so
mindlessly
pause.
Yeah.
So I already know he's going to talk about DMC5 in this video. So let me just go through this list really quick. Mindless mashing or no consequences, you can't do that in DMC5. If you spam Stinger, you will not be getting any style. Hell, Nero, one of the unfortunate parts about playing Nero in DMC5 is that he doesn't have like that many moves. So it's very easy to not get a lot of style with him if you aren't like really, really good at the game. And then no style incentive through combat or EXP gain. You get more red orbs the higher style is at the end of a level. That's kind of it. And also just the fact that you're incentivized to get high style because A, good moves are locked behind style, and B, having a high style means you're playing the game well and you're avoiding damage. Royal Guard and Trickstar are two like good examples of this. So you're going to be avoiding damage all the time if you have a high style. Style meter and ranking system is arbitrary. I mean, I guess, but we have to wait for him to define arbitrary. And the only reason to play style sheet is style meter or rank. That's a bit redundant with the third point, so,
Hit any button you want, and there would be little to no consequence for bad decision making, while engaging in the game's other options would give you a high score or ranking. In the best case of style meter implementation, you'd have a game where playing well
Why did you just fade in, then fade back? Oh. Never mind.
was important to your success, and you'd come to love the interesting options due to how important they were to learn. And on top of that, there's a score or ranking system to give you bragging rights and unlock more features. Video games have existed for like half a century at this point.
So his complaint about style systems is that some of them are arbitrary or they don't like serve a purpose. But bragging rights is like, oh yeah, you should get bragging rights from style meters, and it's like, is that not an arbitrary purpose? Can you not say that about literally every style meter ever?
Couldn't you just say that about every high score ever?
Yeah, it's just feel good. It's just motivation for the player.
But he doesn't think that because that's what he said earlier. But now he's saying that bragging rights counts. But all of them have bragging rights. So what's he talking about?
I guess he thinks, I don't know, he could just, over my long history of watching videos, he could either be talking out of his ass, or he could just easily not understand the separation of bragging rights to whatever the hell he said before. I'm not paying attention.
As have scoring systems. Some of you might be old enough to remember trying to get a high score on the old arcade cabinets at the pizza place. But even if you weren't playing with the goal of getting a high score, which I never was, you still had to play well or else you'd have to keep popping in quarters. Playing to get a high score and playing casually required the same skills. So let's go way back and talk about a game that is as classic as they come. Pinball. Yeah, pinball. What is pinball? Well, you launch a metal ball through a machine.
Don't need to explain that. I'm pretty sure most people know what pinball is.
Hey, get away from the mic, please. You're too loud. Well, yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of Oxygen?
Oh yeah, you could breathe.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's cool.
Breathing is...
Pretty sure people have heard of pinball. You guys ever heard of Tetris?
Watching it bounce off bumpers, jump ramps, and come flying back towards you, to be launched back into the machine by two flippers that you control with buttons on the side. If all the balls slip through the flippers, the game is over, and you put in another quarter. Pinball has a scoring system. It is technically a score-based game, and if you hit a bunch of point bonuses and land some cool tricks and skill shots, you'll activate a bunch of flashing lights and get point multipliers. This could be called a style meter in a way. Playing enough pinball will eventually get you a high score, and there are lots of people even today who are extremely talented pinball players that get incredibly high scores and do unimaginably impressive tricks on different machines. But you gotta put that stuff aside and think, What is it like the first time you play pinball? When you walk up to that big machine and put a quarter in, having never played a pinball machine before, what are you trying to do?
Anyone talking, or am I?
What? Huh? What?
You know what?
I
Hold up.
almost fell asleep.
You never seen a muted chat room before? Anywho.
First thing on your mind, the scoring system? Are you studying the machine looking for all the bonus sections and getting worried about maintaining a point multiplier? No, of course not. You're trying to figure out how to play the game. The ball is flying everywhere, it's hard to control the trajectory when you hit it. You're figuring out tactics like holding the ball on a single flipper and then launching it at the right angle. You're just trying not to lose so fast, because when you lose, you gotta put in another quarter. That's your negative reinforcement. It's a tangible consequence. If you screw around and don't play right, you're punished by having to spend more money. You are technically trying to aim for points. Otherwise, you could just hold the ball on a flipper forever unless there's a timer. But when you're learning to play, that ball is gonna slip out of your control really fast. It's not gonna go where you want. It's gonna bounce all over the place, you're gonna panic,
Where
and you're
on
gonna spend
God's
a lot of
green earth could he possibly be going with this? That he needs to explain every single aspect of pinball.
Some games don't have that level of interactivity and complexity.
He's gonna have a real hard time arguing that.
time
No
just
tangible
trying
consequences.
to get control
Talking
and
about,
not
like-
lose the ball.
Sorry.
He's talking about like there's no like tangible consequences for the like not playing well in the scoring system.
But again, he's gonna have a really hard time arguing that because a lot of the games he's talking about are gonna be very action-focused ones, especially ones that lean on the harder side. So
But pinball isn't necessarily an action-based game. It's just like get as much points as possible. I don't know how that's supposed to mean like something like a style meter or anything. I
yeah,
don't know
that too.
what-
Pinball is very fundamentally different because it's a high score game as opposed to like a DMC where you have an objective, just get to the end of the level.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose track of the whole scoring system pretty quick. The first experiences of pinball are simply about keeping the ball going and developing coordination. That's where you find the fun of the game. And once you've hit the point of having fun with the game's mechanics, after being pushed
God, I bet. When I first saw these pinball machines in the video, my brain just keeps thinking pinballs are just brain rot for boomers in the boomer age.
It's like the TikTok for their era, I guess.
More or less. No, it's more like those freaking memes where they have flashing lights and like, what's the word? Small voice clips in between a video. No, it's more like the Family Guy and satisfying videos on the side of the TikTok.
Oh my god, I hate those
Yeah,
videos.
it's more like those.
into learning them through consequences, you start caring more about the point system. You
Oh, at least pinball is actually an engaging instead of
Yeah, you get something from it.
civilization, even though is how much you actually care about points. But yeah,
fall in love with how the game is played first, and then style and scores become important. If pinball were a game that could be played by randomly mashing the flippers, just mindlessly hitting the ball around and there's very little chance that you'll lose your turn, it wouldn't be the fault of the players for playing in such a boring way. It would be the game's fault for not asking them to play better. The high-skill scoring system would still be there, but the game would never ask anything of a new player. And most
Alright, now I'm annoyed on how much preamble he's talking about. Come on, get to the point! We got I don't know, let's go a minute left? No. Yeah, we got about a minute 30 left before he actually talks about whatever the hell he's talking about.
of the players who are now experts in high scores wouldn't even exist today because they never would have fallen in love with the game in the first place due to never having been pushed into learning how it's really played. Games have been like this from the start. You play a game for the challenge and fun it provides through its design, and then the score becomes something you care about when you're good. We can apply this to modern video games and their style systems, examining how they introduce new players to their gameplay mechanics. And we're going to look at 6 games that do this to various degrees of success and failure. Bayonetta, God of War, Ultra Kill, Ninja Gaiden, Streets of Rage 4, and Devil May Cry 5. I'll be talking about these games in terms of my experience with them, and I'm sure there will be lots of disagreement depending on how much importance you personally place on scoring systems in general. I place no importance on scoring systems if they have no tangible impact on gameplay, and like in the pinball example, I see scores as something to aspire to once the game has done its job in making you fall in love with the way it's designed to be played. A scoring system and/or style meter is not a substitute for engaging gameplay. You should be able to remove the entire scoring system and still have a game that encourages dynamic and skillful play through its natural sense of challenge and fun. When a player picks up Ninja Gaiden for the first time and plays on normal, or God...
Oh yeah, I was gonna say this earlier, but what game actually just has a flat numbers as their main selling mechanic? Like, what type of game even has that? It's odd how you preface this. Like, any actual piece of content has that level of nuance. I think that's the word I'm trying to look for. Shallowness, yeah. That level of shallowness. I guess maybe phone games, but even then.
Forbid on hard, the end of level style ranking is the last thing on your mind because you're too busy trying not to die. There's so much to learn in the first levels, and then when you do actually get pretty good and you start doing things like parries, air combos, using orb charges to level up your attacks to cause other enemies to drop even more orbs, you're playing in those fun, stylish ways because it has a real benefit during combat. Then, at the end of the level, you get a Master Ninja ranking instead of a pathetic Ninja Dog ranking. And that's nice. It doesn't really mean anything, and your stylish, intelligent play has evolved out of your love for the game you're playing. Ninja Gaiden's ranking system is ultimately arbitrary as it adds nothing to the gameplay. Another game that does this sort of low-impact style ranking is Streets of Rage 4. You're engaging in the combo system, using defensive specials, pulling off flashy attack sequences, because you're trying to stay alive, and you're going for point bonuses that eventually give you extra lives that you desperately need to make it through the level as you're learning the game, provided you're playing on an appropriately challenging difficulty. Your points per level also add to an overall total that goes towards unlocking additional playable characters. Maintaining a long series of attacks gets the point multiplier to increase, which makes you want to keep your offense going. But if you get hit at any point, the multiplier disappears and you'll lose all the points you would have earned if you had simply allowed the multiplier to expire naturally. Defensive specials drain your temporary health, but long combo attacks recharge that health hit by hit. Grabs are very powerful and have invulnerability frames, and greatly contribute to the point multiplier while you're racking up damage, but they do not recharge health drained by defensive specials. Blitz attacks are very powerful and at times abusable, but have recovery frames that open you up to enemy attacks if used at the wrong time. There's a lot of reasons to engage in the systems of Streets of Rage 4, apart from the style ranking at the end of the level. And speaking as someone who doesn't care about rankings, I feel good about achieving an S rank. I feel good about it now because I've already put in my time falling in love with the game and how it plays, so there's a sense of satisfaction upon seeing that S. Streets of Rage 4's ranking system is a reflection of...
So he doesn't care about the Ninja Gaiden ranking, but he cares about Streets of Rage ranking. Because it makes him feel good.
He didn't really explain that he does like Ninja Gaiden's, just that he likes that he got a higher score, a better title than he did before. Like, he likes that he has a better title from playing well instead of having a worse title while playing similarly as well. He didn't really explain it too well.
The points you gained, but you're not actually aiming for that. You're aiming for high individual level points to gain enough extra lives to survive to the end, and the style ranking at the end simply tells you how well you've done that. It's not a goal in and of itself. Bayonetta actually has individual combat encounter rankings, and then a ranking total at the end of the level. And again, like the other games I just mentioned, it doesn't really mean anything. It has some nice limitations on it, like decreasing the value of attacks that you overuse, penalizing you for using potions. Playing in smart, stylish ways yields you a bunch of halos that you can use to unlock new attacks and items to help you during combat. So there's a decent incentive to try to earn as many as you can. But where I think it fails is in your starting combat options. Bayonetta gives you so many attack options right at the start that not only is it overwhelming to the point where I don't even want to add new attacks to the list as I'm trying to learn this game on a first playthrough, but I also feel like I don't need these extra attacks since the normal difficulty is so easy to mash through anyway. Fortunately, on the hard difficulty, there's more need to unlock additional moves, so engaging in the style system will get you some more halos. I only wish this kind of pressure existed as an option for new players who wanted it. Here's
I get it, but I guess, well, I even if there's a lot of moves off the start, is there like no incentive to like at least attempt them because of how, flashy some of the longer strings are? Not to mention the potential of getting a stronger combo if you try the other strings, but, well, he just says no incentive, too easy, mashable, and other unlockable content. So, I get it, but...
Here's the thing about Bayonetta. Since the game's highest available difficulty for a new player is pretty damn easy, there's really not much to discourage people from mashing buttons and doing a bunch of random bullshit to pass every combat encounter. There's not much pressure on you to play the game well, like there is in Ninja Gaiden and Streets of Rage 4. So there's that risk that players may simply not pick up on the interesting mechanics of Bayonetta
Is the mic
because...
bad?
Is not as loud.
Oh, I don't know why it is.
Oh, never mind. It's back to being loud.
Okay, I'm just gonna be quiet.
Risk that players may simply not pick up on the interesting mechanics of Bayonetta because they aren't necessary for beating the game, until you unlock the hard difficulty where they become insanely important, and you have to engage in them to beat the game. That's when a player can truly fall in love with how the game...
Oh, yeah. Alright, I guess that's true from a certain point of view. No, for some people, but other people would be interested in seeing more of the game style because, as we all know, Bayonetta is a rather stylish game. So having the options itself seems more enticing than the actual sense of difficulty in needing to use more options for the... What did he say? More options to complete... Actually,
Leo, can I say something?
I think it's just... Huh? What?
Can I say something?
game is meant...
Oh, I was already paused. Yeah, sure.
Mayo said, you can easily mash through the game, but there are enemies that can't be staggered, and if you just mash through, you'll get like clipped, and enemies do like massive damage.
Well, he didn't say that yet. So, I mean, thank you for telling me, but he didn't say that yet. So,
But still,
even still, that didn't really change my opinion because, well, yeah, there may be a lot of things to do, but that doesn't mean some people wouldn't try to use everything in their disposal, even if it even if it even if it is easy. In fact, I dare say even that it is easy would be more incentive to use stuff that they haven't done because they would feel not as much pressure into equipping new weapons and using new moves. So that actually does kind of backfire on his point now that I gave him some more thought. Also for a sense of progression because it's not exactly a long game, but its replayability is definitely in its style system. And like you said, using new moves or not repeating the same moves will it not degrade your style bonus. So yeah, there's also that.
Is meant to be played, and you can start caring about a meaningless ranking system. And I think a big reason for Bayonetta's disconnect between stylish play and its actual gameplay design, at least on the normal difficulty, is the recharging health system. If you're not going into Bayonetta immediately with the mindset of, I'm gonna try to get a high style ranking, you'll notice that if you finish a fight with low health and then go into the next fight and die immediately, you respawn at the beginning of that fight with full health. I think that's a really poor design decision, one that I have regularly criticized in the new God of War games. If you can simply refill your health by dying immediately in the next fight and respawning, then you've been robbed of the satisfaction of finishing a fight with high health. It feels great to make it through a tough combat encounter having taken little to no damage, when there's a reason for it. In a game like the original God of War, you had defined health refill stations. So if you left a fight with a lot of health, you were going into the next fight in a good position. It made you want to protect your health and play smart, due to the consequences of leaving a fight with low health. So if I could make one change to Bayonetta, it would be to remove the refilling health mechanic and instead tie health regeneration to the torture attacks you can use once you get a full magic meter. That's something I love about Bayonetta. If you get hit, you lose a lot of your magic meter. That drives you to want to be defensive in combat. And if you can get enough magic to execute a torture attack, you'll do a lot of damage. And I think this should also refill a small amount of health. This would put pressure on you to play better, engage in more of the game's mechanics, and build up your magic meter for the big attacks more often. You'd be protecting your health bar more, and refilling the health bar more as a result. That way you'd feel good about leaving a fight with high health and taking that high health into the next fight. Working for your health, whether it be through combat or exploration, is much more satisfying than getting it back for free, with the only downside being that you negatively affect an arbitrary style ranking. I mentioned the classic God of War games, so let's get...
I don't remember Bayonetta that much, but you do get a decrease in style and therefore points if you die in the middle of a match. So it's not exactly. Well, he did say if you don't care about the style, but still, if you don't get hit and play well and not die, it gives you more points. So even then, it does matter. But yeah,
Get into those. I'll stick to the original game.
I could be wrong about that. I may be just implanting it onto another platinum game that I've played recently.
God of War doesn't have a level-by-level ranking system, but it does have somewhat of a combo style system during combat. It doesn't go any further than some encouraging words popping up on the side of the screen. What you're looking at is the aura.
Well, that's incorrect, because if you get a higher hit, if you get a higher number, you get more red stuff, which means you can unlock more stuff earlier. It's tied into the in-game currency. He is entirely wrong about that.
some encouraging words popping up on the side of the screen. What you're looking
You're not entirely wrong. You just didn't explain it all the way.
at is the orbs, since orbs are used to level up your magic attacks and especially your blades, giving you access to higher damage and useful attacks that deal devastating damage or can be used for long combo extensions, thereby giving you even larger orb bonuses. Getting hit causes your combo to end, so there's an incentive to play defensively. But large multi-hit attacks rack up lots of hits for high orb bonuses, so that's an incentive to play risky.
Well, then he explains it? What? Why did you say it was useless at the beginning, but then why? Never mind.
And offensively. It's a nice balance. You're given a limited number of attacks and shown immediately that you can unlock more with these red orbs. 20 seconds into the game, you're piecing this stuff together. Okay, limited move set, long combos give me orbs, orbs unlock more moves, don't get hit or your combo breaks, got it. God of War also offers a hard difficulty setting for new players who want to be held accountable for their combat decisions, delivering an experience fairly similar to Ninja Gaiden on a first playthrough. Now, God of War is certainly not a perfectly balanced game. There's plenty of things you can exploit, and if it were remade today, I would want to tweak it a bit. But what I appreciate about God of War is that right at the beginning, they...
Is he talking about the lightning thing? Because it's a bit strong. I wish he explained that, but whatever.
show you what the benefits are of engaging in the combo system. And in my personal experience, I wouldn't have experimented nearly as much with the deeper aspects of combat if I hadn't been shown early on that my performance was directly tied to my ability to upgrade my weapons and unlock new attacks. If God of War had an end-of-level ranking system, I would welcome it, and I would shoot for a high score because the game already, in my opinion, does a good job of getting me interested in how it's supposed to be played. It just needs some balance tuning to make the interesting mechanics harder to ignore as you go forward. What I appreciate—
Please explain. What are you talking about? What interesting mechanics? You mean the spells? Or whatever the blessings, whatever they're called?
Welcome to DMC5.
about God of War's XP-based combat system is what I don't appreciate about Devil May Cry 5's. All I can do is speak from my experience. I bought Devil May Cry 5, the game started with only basic moves like God of War, so I was inspired to unlock more, but it gave me 100,000 orbs at the start that I was able to use to unlock all the attacks that I needed.
Pause. It's only from the deluxe edition.
Yeah, that.
And it's not enough.
And also, as you can see on the screen, with even just single moves costing 20,000, 15,000, 45,000, 100,000 orbs is not going to get you shit.
Yeah.
So as a new player unfamiliar with this franchise, I was fighting enemies and seeing this style meter that gave me an orb bonus, but I didn't feel like I needed orbs anymore. I already had everything I needed.
Bullshit! That's just a lie. I could open up DMC5 right now and check the fucking move list and then see just how much of even Nero, who again does not have that many moves, you cannot buy on a first playthrough. There's simply won't be enough orbs. He's just lying.
There's a thing to be said that getting the deluxe edition enables you to have a easier time at the start of the game.
Very slightly.
But
you'll have like 2 or 3 extra moves.
But yeah, very slightly. But apart from that, well,
he's acting like he just bought a full playthrough already. Like, oh damn, I already had all my moves, which he just doesn't. Which isn't even counting the moves you only get from beating the game.
He's not talking about the other characters.
Even if he's not talking about the other characters, you can only buy like 2 or 3 of Nero's moves with 100,000 orbs, and Nero has way more than 2 or 3 moves.
Yeah.
And the highest available difficulty is normal, which is laughably easy in most cases. So right from the outset, DMC5 sabotaged its introduction when it was supposed to be showing me the importance of stylish play methods. I did eventually unlock a hard difficulty, and I started to feel more pressure to play in stylish and creative ways, but it was out of a need for survival, not because of a style ranking that, at that point, meant very little in terms of gameplay.
I've been thinking. He says these games are too easy on the base difficulties. I
He never
suppose.
explains why.
No, I can get it that it's just not that challenging at the start. But I guess I guess this is kind of separate from the actual argument he's saying. But if it was actually difficult at base, would some of his arguments be null and void? Like, would some of these arguments he's trying to insinuate be invalid, or like he wouldn't have?
Not really. Because it almost feels like the difficulty point and the style ranking points are two completely separate things. So even if the games weren't hard, or even if the games weren't easy at the beginning, he would still be saying everything about the style meetings. I think he only throws in the stuff about it being easy because he doesn't like DMC5 and wants to take digs at it. Because otherwise, it's unrelated to the style ranking point.
I really want. We should do the under Mills. I've been as I can be to play Devil May Cry 5. I really want to do that.
Sure.
I didn't understand a thing you just said.
So you want to do Under Mayo's, like, I was told to play Devil May Cry 5 video.
Oh.
But we'll do it at a later time.
He says that the style ranking didn't matter anymore because he was just trying to play well for survival. But the style ranking is a measure of how well you're playing for survival. Because
And also Dante has a mechanic called Triple S, where he can go to Sin Devil Trigger very quickly and out of it without costing any of his meter.
Yeah, but like even like the measure of how well he's playing, because on higher difficulties, specifically Dante Must Die, you die in like 2 or 3 hits, so you can't really use health as a measure of how well you're doing. So you use the style meter, and so if he's playing for survival and he's got a triple S, he knows that he's surviving pretty well.
For the free Sin Trigger attack for Dante. On top of all that, it feels very easy to get a high style meter just by doing random stuff and spamming moves. Unlike Bayonetta, where the hard difficulty starts with a fresh save option, DMC5 starts you with all the unlocks from the normal playthrough, so you don't need to worry about engaging with the style system to unlock necessary abilities.
That's just literally actually a lie.
So you don't need to worry about engaging with the style system to unlock necessary abilities. You already have them. Fortunately, when you get to higher difficulties, the game opens up and there are real benefits to playing in more interesting ways, and it has nothing to do with getting a high ranking. I made it far enough to eventually see the depth of DMC5, but I couldn't blame someone for playing the game once and dropping it, feeling like it's a mindless button masher, because that's how it insists on presenting itself, even if ultimately it ends up being something far from it. Which brings me to Ultra Kill, a game that proudly promotes itself as being inspired by Devil May Cry. And I'm sorry, but I think this is a really poorly implemented style ranking system. I don't think Ultra Kill is a bad game. I think it's a decent, cool game that has some fun stuff if you really go looking for it. But this isn't about the games overall. This is about the connection between their ranking systems and their gameplay. First of all, like DMC5, and honestly like God of War, it has the same exact problem of your starting attack option being way too powerful. An infinite ammo pistol that charges into a multi-hitting railgun shot, and combined with your insane triple dash mobility options and super easy health refill, it ends up trivializing all the encounters in the early levels, and even later levels. So if you're not playing this game with the expressed goal of getting a high ranking for fast completion time and weapon style, the default pistol is the solution to every problem, so who cares about these other weapons? You might say, well, getting a high ranking,
I guess.
Also, this feels like the difficulty argument again, where it's just completely separate from the style thing. Style has nothing to do with whether or not the pistol's the only weapon you use. because even if the pistol was the only weapon you used, you can still be stylish while using it. Literally in the video footage, you see how he plays the game differently when he's in Ultra Kill style versus like when he had like a C. When he had a C, it was just moving back and forth shooting, and he still took damage because he wasn't completely avoiding it. But when he was in the hallway with like all those guys, he was getting triple S's and Ultra Kills. Then he wasn't taking any damage because he was parrying, which is incentivizing you to get in touch with the gameplay mechanics, and it's visualized to you and described to you by the actual like breakdown on the right with the style meter. So what's he talking about? Is he stupid?
Maybe.
Gives you extra credits to unlock alternate versions of future weapons, just like God of War, DMC, and Bayonetta. To which I would say, even if you play like an idiot, you'll gain enough points to unlock them because they don't cost hardly anything. It's not like God of War is, or how Bayonetta and Devil May Cry try to be, where they show you a bunch of moves that you really want to unlock, and they're dangling them in front of you, tempting you to try to get more points. No, they are gradually presented to you, and by the time they're available, you already have enough points to buy them even if you haven't been playing very well. And again, who cares about these weapon upgrades? The pistol charge shot is working just fine. And because of the terrible weapon balance, infinite ammo, insane mobility, and super simplistic AI, you aren't pushed into the interesting mechanics through actual gameplay. You don't end up playing in creative and smart ways just because you're trying to survive, eventually resulting in a high style ranking as a natural consequence, like in Ninja Gaiden or Streets of Rage 4. The best way for a new player to survive shouldn't be the dumbest, most boring thing you can do. You should at least present some kind of motivation not to do that. Imagine if Ultra Kill had limited ammo, and using different weapons caused your ammo to refill. Or what if maintaining a high style meter gave you a damage buff, making higher difficulties more manageable? Or maybe the style meter tied into a health regeneration system. Or maybe the starting weapon could be really crappy, and the only way to get better weapons was by getting enough points exclusively through the style system. There's so many things you could do to make the stylish mechanics actually mean something. Instead, the ranking system ultimately feels arbitrary. And I'll admit, now that I know how to play Ultra Kill after spending hours in it, if I play with the goal of trying to get through the levels as quickly as possible and get a high ranking, I end up having a lot more fun. But the game does a very poor job of getting you to that point or that mentality. Maybe if there was a timer to put a lot of pressure on you to beat fights quickly or you die, something to actually make you care about beating it quickly, I don't know. Because in its current state, if—
What? Didn't it have a timer when you show the result screen?
I think he means like an on-screen timer during the game, like Sonic type. But also, I feel like this is a kind of flimsy argument because, yeah, you could argue that Ultra Kill doesn't do a good enough of a job of like wanting or making you want to, do the levels faster. But at the same time, does it have to? Because again, this is why the argument is so fundamentally different from like a pinball. Because Ultra Kill has an ending. You progress through levels to get to the end, and so if a player plays through the game normally and sees all their times and their rankings and the ends of the levels, and they get to the end of the game, and they liked it when what they played, they're gonna get to the end and think, I liked it, I want to play it more, and I want to play it better. So, what else is he looking for aside from like strict gameplay benefits to playing better? Because for the most part, that's not really the game's responsibility. The game's responsibility is to get you from the beginning to the end. Whether or not you want to play it better is up to the player.
Also, I don't think it's like a good idea to like. I also don't think it's like a good idea to like reward the player for being better, because it makes it easy.
Shouldn't
Well, I mean, I feel like
the
that's how games should be designed. Is that it should be easier if you're playing better.
No, it's just like it's challenging the player to like maintain your style. like the high score you got.
But
Instead of
again,
trying to make
that's a very separate thing from whether or not it's easy or hard.
You mean they shouldn't make it not progressive. Like, if you do better at a game, the game should accommodate by making the game harder mid-game? Is that what you mean?
No, it's just like I was trying to like make it. I'm just saying that it shouldn't be like easier to like make it like for people to play better.
But if you're better at the game, it's going to be inherently easier. Whatever then.
Make you care about beating it quickly? I don't know. Because in its current state, if it didn't have a ranking system, Ultra Kill would just be this insanely broken game with no reason to engage in all the available mechanics. And I think that's a poor way to design your gameplay, I'm sorry. Maybe this stuff would fly 20 years ago, but these days you gotta do more. Think about it for a minute if you're an Ultra Kill player. If you had limited ammo that automatically regenerated very slowly, but maintaining a high style meter caused ammo regeneration to get significantly faster, then you would have a game where new players who aren't any good would actually have an in-game reason to get good and aim for a high style meter. And players who are already good would be unaffected because they're already maintaining high style meters, and they'd basically be regenerating the infinite ammo which they already have right now. It's a win-win. Ultra Kill needs something like this. Without some kind of incentivization system, there's no reason for new players to engage in your style meter.
Yeah, I know the wash machines blow up with the cat.
Hey, Abel.
Yeah, one moment.
What are you doing right now, man?
I'm talking with my dad.
Well, not anymore. Crom, take his phone.
Yeah, no, dude. Yo, what the
Alright, so me and Crom
Boss.
designed...
I hate this section so much. I just don't know what point is he trying to prove with this stuff.
this awesome brand new game.
This very big.
Check it out, man. Yeah, you want to try it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so Chrome, explain the rules.
Alright, so you start here. You got it?
This nigga got a Robocop.
Do you understand?
Funko Pop?
Yes, I understand.
I beg
so
you
you
to
start-
increase the speed of this section to 1.5. I'm not going to listen to this for 3 minutes.
Affirmative.
Here.
Here.
Yeah, so you start here, and you're gonna take your character all the way to the end. Got it?
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Go.
Yeah. Whoa, what's going on? What are you doing?
I just went to the end like you told me.
It's wrong.
What did I do wrong?
Well, why did you just go to the end?
Because you told me to do that.
But what about the style points?
The style points?
Yeah, bro, the style points. You gotta go to the other parts to get the points.
Yeah.
Do I need those points to reach the end?
Well, no.
So...
You can unlock new moves.
New moves? I can just go straight to the end.
But that's boring.
Then you made a boring game.
Look, you can't just take a direct path to the end, okay? You gotta make the game fun.
Isn't that your job?
Pause.
You gotta...
So I don't understand how we could possibly make this argument about games like DMC or Bayonetta or Ultra Kill when this also applies to God of War, which he praised. Even if God of War doesn't have like a strict scoring system, he was talking about, oh, you can use all the things to get all the new moves. But you don't have to do that. You can just, I assume, use the basic attack until the very end of the game. But, you know, with this whole straw man he's making here, he just said, oh, but you can unlock new moves. So is he also making fun of God of War here?
I think he's trying to say that the Bayonetta and Ultra Kill don't have a stronger incentive to be.
Well, no, I know he's trying to put down Ultra Kill, Bayonetta, and DMC, but this also applies to God of War. Like literally, he said the new move things as a praise for God of War, but he's using it as a negative here. So did he not mean it when he was praising God of War, or is he just fucking stupid?
He didn't really say that you need new moves for God of War. Just that it incentivizes.
He didn't say that you needed them, but his praise of God of War was that you want to get new moves, or sorry, that you want to like play stylishly because it gets you new moves. That was a praise of God of War. But here on his Strawman Awesome Style quest, the reason to play stylishly would be to get new moves. But he's showing that as a bad thing.
My brain is hazy. Yeah. What did he say? Man, I woke up way too late in the morning.
High point score, then you can show all your friends.
I don't have any friends.
Look, man, just play it again, and this time try to get the style points, okay?
Okay.
Alright. Oh, okay, he's got a 2x multiplier.
Yeah.
Alright, he's keeping it going.
Oh,
That's
sick
nice.
Harry, bro. Nice.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, 4x multiplier?
Ooh.
That is sweet.
Oh, man.
It's a good combo he's got going, really.
Oh, look at all those styles.
Oh, dude, savage combo. Look at all those points.
That's so cool. Yeah, come on. Let's go.
All right, he's near the end. He's almost there.
Go.
Yeah, yes! Yes!
Yes!
Woo!
Awesome!
All right. Man, yes. Woo! Dude, how do you feel?
What's wrong with you people? Jesus.
Don't worry about it, man. He just doesn't get it. This is gonna sell millions. I can feel it. If I had to grade all these games based on their relation between ranking systems and gameplay, it would go like this. Ninja Gaiden, C+. The game does a good job of pushing the player into stylish and intelligent play, especially with the challenging normal difficulty and the option of a hard difficulty.
I know that other people are not as attuned to that.
There's only like one other person that ever spoke in this damn video, and I can barely understand him.
New players. But the ranking system provides no benefits whatsoever, and there's no in-game style meter to keep track of how well you're doing. God of War, B+. A limited attack list combined with combo-based orb bonuses provides solid incentive for engaging in stylish play, and the option of a hard difficulty ensures that new players can be pushed into playing smart, making them want to get more orbs through the combo system to upgrade their character faster to meet the challenge. However, weapon balance is an issue that makes it too easy to ignore the combo system once you figure out cheap tactics, and an end-of-level style ranking would be very welcome. Bayonetta,
Okay, I can only presume he's talking about the Poseidon Ring of Lightning thingy, where he's talking about exploiting the game, because that is pretty strong, but yeah, I just wish he just explained that point he said.
B-. A detailed style meter system combined with expensive purchases in the store provide a decent incentive for engaging in stylish play, and it helps that it's so easy to freestyle given how smooth Bayonetta's combat feels. The loss of magic upon being hit inspires defensive play, especially on high difficulties. However, an overabundance of combat options at the beginning detracts from the need to buy new attacks, and an easy health refill system discourages smart play by removing tangible consequences from the experience. And the first playthrough is set to normal by default, which makes the game too easy. Fortunately, the game requires smart, stylish play on higher difficulties, and the ranking system then serves as a personal goal set for players who love the game and want to master the combat without using special items. And as a nice bonus, if you get an average platinum score upon completion, you unlock an additional playable character. That's great. Ultra Kill, D. Fun gameplay emerges when you're pushing yourself towards high rankings, but the game really fails to provide solid in-game reasons for doing so. Currency earned from high rankings feels pointless as new weapons are unlocked easily through even mediocre play. An overpowered starting weapon, infinite ammo, and uninteresting AI renders other weapons and tactics unnecessary even on higher difficulties, and the in-game style meter doesn't affect moment-to-moment combat. Devil May Cry 5, C. Sharing some of the same problems of Bayonetta and Ultrakill, DMC5's ranking system largely feels arbitrary, especially when the first playthrough is stuck being on the normal difficulty, which is very easy to mash through. The game gives you 100,000 orbs to unlock all the attacks you need, making the orb bonus from the style meter pointless. And the style meter is very easy to manipulate through random mashing and spamming. However, similar to Bayonetta, once the game is played on higher difficulties, stylish play does emerge naturally, which is then reflected by high rankings. Streets of Rage 4, A-. 5 available difficulty options for new players, beautiful synergy between life-draining defensive specials and life-regenerating combo attacks, invulnerability frames during grab animations, a point system based on overall damage and not number of hits, the addictive risk-reward of trying to maintain a long combo when getting hit means you could lose everything, and the goal of gaining extra lives through the point system. All of this makes smart, stylish play the default way to play Streets of Rage 4. The end-of-level ranking system is the cherry on top that reflects how well you've engaged in the game's systems, as evidenced by the point total, and overall points contribute to character unlocks and a sense of progression. The only thing keeping this from being an A+ is maybe making the achievement of S rank give an additional bonus to something, and the game needs an S+ rank with much stricter requirements. You know what? Let's throw one more in there. I talk about Resident Evil a lot on this channel. So, did you know Resident Evil has a ranking system? Yeah, you're graded based on how fast you beat the game and how many times you saved. The first time you play, you don't even know about it. You engage in the systems of survival horror, exploration, resource and inventory management, puzzle solving, enemy avoidance, because that's what's necessary to survive. And then, expressing your mastery of those systems earns you a high ranking.
Pause. But isn't that what he complained about for DMC5? That survival wasn't enough? Does this motherfucker have a double standard? Curious.
At the end after you've already fallen in love with how the game plays.
What?
That's what's necessary to survive. And then, expressing your mastery of those systems earns you a high ranking at the end after you've already fallen in love with how the game plays, because it was required to play like that to beat the game in the first place. So those are my thoughts on style.
I mean, I guess, but there was like, you didn't say you unlock anything for like getting a good ranking. So why would they be incentivized to do a higher score apart from self-satisfaction?
Style meters and ranking systems. I had originally planned to make this a longer section in my original Challenge Matters video, but I decided it was better suited for its own video. So this works as an extension of that theme, and that's why I'm repeating some of my points and examples from that video. I appreciate all of you taking the time to hear me out on this. Honestly, it's not like I have a problem with people who go crazy over style meters. If you play a hack and slash game or whatever it is, and all you care about is styling on enemies even if the game is super easy, well, I'm happy for you. But I really do think the games can be more than that. They can be more and still offer you the same stylish satisfaction you like so much. I know it because I've seen it. Thank you for watching this video. You can check me out on Patreon. I've got a merch store with lots of cool shirts and stuff. And now you can buy your own game board to play awesome Style Quest with your friends at home. Check it out.
Yeah.
Well, I have nothing to say about that video.
That was terrible.
If there's anything I can't get over, it's the blatant lying or the double standards for things that he'll complain about for one thing, but then praise for another thing.
He's being very disingenuous.
More so contradictory.
Same difference.
Yep.
So now what?
I know David wanted to do the I was told to play DMC5 video, but I actually checked the length of that, and that's 40 minutes, and I don't have time for that.
Well, I haven't played DMC, So y'all gotta have to do the heavy lifting.
Honestly, if you're willing to, Dave, we could put that off for like 2 weeks from now when I'm back home and I don't have to worry about like noise, so I could just record the video.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can save that for another time. Also, in the future, we should start using Watch Together because you'd be like geriatric with these pauses sometimes.
Geriatric? I mean, I guess, but only like 2 of you are actually commenting to pause, and I guess... Yeah, that would definitely be better. Well, we could do the other videos I posted in this chat.
What are the other ones?
Let's see. We could do the Yumesuke video. The secret to writing power escalation.
That's interesting.
Sure.
Excellent.
That's a quick one, so we can knock that out.
Yep.
Contrary to what many anime channels say, power escalation isn't a bad thing. It all comes down to how it's
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Whatever.
What many anime channels say, power escalation isn't a bad thing. It all comes down to how it's executed. Let me explain. I'll split
Who the hell's saying power escalation is a bad thing? Isn't that like inherent to everything? Like you wouldn't be called a great boxer if you fought like I don't know any boxers.
I mean, not necessarily. Some people do bring it up as a problem with Dragon Ball, simply that it has power escalation. And even with series that aren't necessarily like direct action, like JoJo's, people don't like it when, or sorry, I shouldn't say people don't like it, but people can generally bring it up as a negative for JoJo's that whenever a character just becomes like stupidly broken, because the entire appeal of JoJo's is that everybody's supposed to be broken, and so having a power escalation of like, oh, this guy can do this bullshit, like Eyes of Heaven. I know it's not canon, but people kind of find it stupid that in Eyes of Heaven, Dio just becomes like the Eyes of Heaven guy, and it's just way stronger than everything else for no reason, really. Because it kind of defeats the appeal of the original series, which is that everyone's supposed to be really good.
I guess.
So yeah, some people do bring up just power escalation, period, as a problem. I don't agree, but it definitely happens.
It's so odd. What? I just... Well, I guess I was just not the target audience for JoJo, but I just... Based on how you describe it, this sounds like a bad show, manga.
Well, no, the majority of JoJo's is... Well, I shouldn't say the majority, but, like, a lot of JoJo's is good because... Or, not because, but it doesn't have that power escalation all the time. Like, yeah, the villain of Part 3 can stop time, but then the villain of Part 4, which is the guy who had explosions.
Oh, we're going off that? Well,
Yeah, we're talking about power escalation.
Well, I guess... Well... We're going... It's a bit hard.
Jotaro could stop time, but he got beat by a rat.
Maybe I don't understand what I'm talking about. But yeah. What he said, Yumesuke said, general power escalation itself. But I guess I'll just say it depends on series.
escalation into two types. Type 1 power escalation is improvement. This refers to increasing the effectiveness of skills that a character already has. Type 2 is expansion. This refers to acquiring new powers and abilities. When I mention escalation, I'm specifically talking about a character moving from their introductory skills to an advanced one. A character displaying superhuman speed the first time they fight doesn't count as escalation because we knew nothing about their speed beforehand. But a lot of these rules still apply to new characters that raise the power ceiling. Spoilers for battle manga and sports manga ahead. Let's begin. Rule 1 of power escalation: it must be predictable. I'll use sports anime as an example. In a sports manga, we have a certain expectation for types 1 and 2 based on real athletes. We roughly know the upper limits an athlete can reach in terms of speed and strength. We have an idea of how many techniques and strategies they can learn and how much they can improve one skill. We also have a general idea of the skill ceiling or game IQ for the different technical areas of a sport. We know the rules of the sport and how it's played, therefore we know almost every possible way a character can escalate for type 2 escalations. Good sports stories may push it a little, but not too much. For example, in Haikyuu, spoiler alert, when Hinata is able to recover like a libero, set, serve, and more in the final match, it is predictable because we know the rules and how the sport is played. We are aware that all of these actions can be performed by any player, it just takes practice and time. When it comes to fantasy, there are extra requirements. Rule 2 of power escalation: it must be foreshadowed. In fantasy, we apply what humans are capable of as the physical ceiling until shown otherwise. Fantasy stories need to set the skill ceiling for both types by showing off early examples. For type 1, physical abilities that are superhuman need to be foreshadowed. For example, if a character will eventually gain super strength, speed, or durability, another character should be shown doing this early on. JJK is a good example. In the first chapter, we see how strong Yuji is. Later, we see Todo also possesses superhuman strength, so when other characters show up with super strength or gain super strength, it's been foreshadowed. We need a ceiling for how strong they can get ahead of time. This ceiling can later be broken.
I don't think that's necessarily true, because Yuji is just strong for a normal guy, obviously to exaggerated anime standards, but Yuji doesn't have like super strength. He's just like a pretty strong guy. He can't lift boulders, assumedly. But Toji is on a different level of super strength. He can actually use the magic system for JJK. So super strength means very different things for Yuji at the beginning of the series than someone else later in the series. And also another thing, I think your internet cut out or something when he was playing the beginning of the video. So I don't know what the type 1 and type 2 thing is about. Oh. But regardless, when he's talking about like, oh, it has to be, when he's talking about the rules now, it's like, oh, it has to be foreshadowed for type 2. How does that make sense? It's like, okay, if someone has super strength, that means that someone earlier in the story had to have super strength so that you know that it's possible. But wouldn't that just be kicking the can down the road? Because it's like, okay, a character shows up and they have super strength, and it's like, oh, but we know the super strength is a thing because someone else had super strength. But what about when that first person had super strength? Like when they introduced the super strength, wouldn't that be not foreshadowed?
No, it's,
like no matter.
I guess so.
No matter what, the first version is not going to be foreshadowed. So what's he talking about?
We're talking about set expectations at like the start of a manga. Well, at the start of the manga, but we said that for the first type of power escalation. So he didn't really clarify that being necessary in the second type. But apart from that, if we're going off,
also you can't really set expectations for every aspect of the power system, because like for JJK in the beginning of the story they introduce like, okay, there is sorcery. You can use sorcery to increase your strength and stuff, but you don't know that includes like curse techniques because they don't introduce that until later. You don't know that one of those curse techniques is like speaking at people and it makes them explode because they don't introduce that until later. So, what, you're just not allowed to introduce anything that isn't introduced at the very beginning of your story? What? That doesn't make any sense.
But it should be before a main character reaches that point. However, how much a magical ability can be improved doesn't need to be foreshadowed in most cases, because the possibilities could be endless. Type 2 is mostly centered around skills and magical abilities. For magical abilities that are applicable to multiple characters, another character should show it off before the escalating character reaches it. For example, if a character in Naruto escalated by learning all 5 elements, it would be well done, because we have already seen characters like Kakashi and Hiruzen use multiple elements early on. Likewise, if a character in Bleach escalated by learning Shikai, Bankai, Kido, Ho-Ho, or Hakuda, it would be well done, because we have already seen characters use each of these, and even some that use multiple. And if a character in Jujutsu Kaisen escalated by learning Domain Expansion, or becoming physically superhuman, It would be well done, because domain expansion is a universal technique shown by many pros, and characters like Yuji and Todo show superhuman physicality.
But this is what I'm talking about. What about the first time they used domain expansion? Would that not be a bad version of Escalation because no one introduced it beforehand?
Also, you did say you don't, not in all cases, you need to show off the power. So I guess,
Like, it seems like he's looking at this from a stance of a series that already exists. Like, oh, JJK already exists, so we don't need to, like, it's not an asshole if someone has a domain expansion, because we already know what that is. But if this is a video about, like, the secret to writing power escalation, this is assuming we're talking about the beginning of a series, a new series. So you wouldn't be able to introduce that ever, because it doesn't exist yet. At least by his standard.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty out of it. Don't expect just don't expect me to say much in this video.
Early on. For hidden or unique abilities, they should be hinted at a good amount of time before their usage. Here are examples. The Kyuubi and Sukuna living inside their respective protagonists is established in the first chapters, so their unique abilities that will become a form of escalation have been foreshadowed. Rule 3 of power escalation: there must be weaknesses. This is a rule in general magic systems overall. What makes a power system interesting isn't just its abilities, but also its weaknesses, drawbacks, and limitations. If a character's powers have no weaknesses to be targeted, the character becomes broken, and the author is forced to make something convoluted to stop them. Type 2 escalation doesn't require any drawbacks, because there is usually a ceiling in place. For example, there are only 5 elements in Naruto, and for Shinigami, there is nothing higher than Bankai. Furthermore, Type 1 escalation should preferably branch out, rather than go straight up. For example, Rasengan escalates by getting stronger and bigger. This is a boring form of escalation and creates a problem that I'll discuss later. Chidori, on the other hand, branches out into different uses for various situations, like Senbon, Stream, and Spear. Characters getting physically stronger, faster, and more durable, and attacks getting bigger and stronger are usually bad forms of power escalation. Earlier, I mentioned how physical ceilings for Type 1 need to be established because of our understanding of human capabilities. With magic, there is no understanding we have outside of the author's writing. A Rasengan can keep getting bigger and stronger, and we can't really say that doesn't make sense. When escalating straight up, there are usually no weaknesses. When Naruto has giant Rasengan, he has no reason to use a regular one. It might take more chakra, but the amount of chakra is controlled by the author, and has never been shown to be an issue in the story. When branching out, there are inherent weaknesses to those branches. Phoenix Flower Jutsu has more shots in range than Fireball Jutsu, but it's not as big and strong. Chidori's Stream has an area of effect damage, but it doesn't have the piercing power or precision as regular Chidori. With magic, Type 1 shouldn't escalate straight up unless there are drawbacks that come with it. Kaioken is a great example. Goku's physical prowess and magical attacks increase, but at the cost of his physical health. This cost is actually shown and plays a role in his fights whenever the move is used. If Type 1 increasing upwards is done like this, then it has a similar effect as branching out. Something is gained, but something is lost.
I don't know how expansive he wants to go with this, but this really only applies to, like, the very beginning. It only applies to the fight on screen, to Goku versus Vegeta, because when he uses Kaioken against Frieza, the physical toll on his body is not brought up. People couldn't even tell that he was using Kaioken until he out loud was like, yeah, I'm using Kaioken, and it's not working. Or at least it's not helping. And then Dragon Ball Super, they pay lip service to the idea of Kaioken having a drawback when he uses Blue Kaioken against Hit, and he's like, yeah, there was like a 10% chance there was a 10% chance I lived, and a 90% chance I died. But then in the Tournament of Power, he uses, and that was the times 10 Kaioken, but then in the Tournament of Power, he uses times 20, and they don't even bring up the toll. So, I don't know if they really care anymore. This really only applies to this fight, which he might just be talking about this fight, not the entirety of Dragon Ball, but kind of makes the point fall flat a little bit.
One form isn't superior to the other. Rule 4 of power escalation: there must be time. The amount of time it takes to acquire these abilities has to be somewhat equivalent to how powerful the ability is. Dangai Ichigo is an example of what not to do. This power-up is brought up right before it's used, in chapter 408, and Ichigo uses what amounts to a hyperbolic time chamber to get a massive increase in power in 416. That's 8 chapters. JJK spoiler alert: Maki from the JJK manga is a worse example. In just one chapter, she also uses a hyperbolic time chamber to get a massive power spike. In both of these examples, the increase in power far outweighs the on-screen time spent training for it. It doesn't matter how long the story tells me they spent training. If it literally takes 10 or less chapters or a couple of real-world minutes to get an insane power boost, that's ridiculous. This leads me to power-ups or transformations. A lot of this relates back to what I've said about power escalation. When planning a transformation, the author should introduce or hint at the power a while before it is used. It shouldn't be introduced late. The character should be shown training for it or receiving it ahead of time. The actual power-up doesn't need to be shown though. The character with the power-up can also be implied to have gained this power through another character ahead of time rather than showing them training for it. I'll go over good and bad examples in terms of execution. Naruto's Nine Tails chakra is a good one, as mentioned earlier. Kurama being sealed within Naruto is established in the first pages of chapter 1, and he uses it much later. The same goes for Bankai and Shikai in Bleach. Shikai is first shown by Renji before the Soul Society arc, and Bankai is stated to be achieved by all captains. Sasuke's Curse Seal is another good one. We see Sasuke get it from Orochimaru and he uses it later. Uryu's Ginrei Kojaku is also good. We knew he lost his powers after the Soul Society arc, and we see him training to regain them. While we didn't expect a different bow with new powers, we knew he gained some kind of power, which is good enough. Renji's second Bankai and Ichigo's final Shikai and Bankai are also good power-ups. We are told early on in the final arc that the two aren't using their true powers. We also see them train for their powers, and the actual power-up isn't revealed until later. Finally, Haki in One Piece is a good power-up. We see quite a few characters use it ahead of time. We see the main characters train during the time skip, and after the time skip, they can use it. For bad examples, the Endy's Lobby power-ups aren't done well. While they are cool, we never see the characters train for them, and it is never hinted at ahead of time that they had these powers. Additionally, I'm not even sure when they would have had the time to gain these powers.
Well, finally something I actually can talk about. Luffy did mention that he had something on the sea train, but apart from Zoro, that was pretty much an ass pull. And I heard that, I heard the ALX bro said that Sanji figured out Diable Jambe from Wanzi when he fought him on the train. So I don't know how much foresight Oda or Sanji had when he wrote.
Well, I don't know how true the Diable Jambe thing is, because even in Sanji's fight, when he brings up Diable Jambe, he was like, yo, I just like had a thought. What if I spin really fast and it gets hot? So he doesn't really bring up the drain fight.
Yeah.
But with Luffy, he does like go beforehand, like, oh, I need to think of a new way to move as fast as they do. So Gear Second is definitely foreshadowed. Gear Third is the weird one, because he was like behind the door and he was like, I actually had another new power. So that one kind of comes out of nowhere.
No, he did show it off against Bluno before he did after he did his jet bazooka. Like it was.
He didn't.
No, yeah, he said
he didn't.
No,
he didn't use Gear Third until he was on his way to Lucci.
No, it was foreshadowed because he said he was gonna have to pull out a new move. I don't forget the specifics, but he was using a stance. Well, he was about to use Gear 3 when he was fighting Bluno, not Lucci, Bluno. So, because
I remember that one.
Yeah, he was putting his thumb in his hand, like how he usually uses Gear 3 against Bluno.
I'll take your word for it.
Naruto's Cape Chakra form is also a bad power-up. Naruto gains this out of nowhere. No foreshadowing, no training. Chad's left arm is another power-up done poorly, because like the rest, it isn't received or trained for ahead of time. It just suddenly appears. And I already talked about Dangai Ichigo. In conclusion, power escalation is done well when it is predictable, foreshadowed, has risk and reward, and is given enough time to happen. Power-ups are done well when they are set up through hinting, mentioning, or showing the power-up gained a good amount of time before it is used.
Well, I have really nothing to say about that. I mean, he usually doesn't.
Thank you.
Usually, he does say pretty nonsensical stuff, but sometimes he just do relatively agreeable. Retrospective? No, not retrospective. Breakdowns, analysis. Yeah, usually it's a pretty bad analysis.
Yeah.
I guess that's it. Especially for me. I'm freaking drained.
Yeah, it's perfect timing. I only had like 10 more minutes.
Well, I guess that's it.